Well, hello everyone. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. Hi there, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to the channel. I am RPG with DBJ. I am your host for this week's demi-daily deep dive as we talk about the ubiquitous, very common, tropey crystal ball. Yeah, today is World Building Wednesday. We take a subject and we kind of stretch it out all week long. And today on World Building Wednesday, I thought we would talk about a world in which, and these are the rules of the general rules of World Building Wednesday. We take a subject and we talk about a setting in which the subject matter has shaped the society. It has become the thing that has warped our setting. And today we're going to talk about the crystal ball. Now, there are two major factors. One of them I think is going to absolutely positively sparking your mind. I'll try to say it before you guys do. The idea of the crystal ball, mind you, it neither needs to be crystal or a ball, but you get the point. The second closest thing would be the magic mirror, the sentient mirror on the wall. But in our case, this is something that has really changed a major portion of our society in this setting. Now, absolutely positively in a far future setting, you can imagine this as, well, ubiquitous surveillance, where surveillance is everywhere. I like that dead man. Dead man's like, I found a new way for activating the magic mirror. If it's a hand mirror, I like that. Quote, mirror, mirror in my hand, who's the fairest in the land? I like that. I like that a lot. And especially if that vain person's like, I gotta leave home. Where's my small mirror? I need to talk. I have to have this conversation. And it is possible that in this world that there's a network of these panes of glass, these crystal orbs, or chalices that allow others to see or scry distant locations, or see the future, or predict who and what or where they will be in the future. And I absolutely feel that if this were to become something that would become far more widespread, that the rich, the powerful, the threatening would absolutely positively keep this for themselves. If when people say, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? Oftentimes the two things that go hand in hand are like flight, strength, and visibility or something. But if you really think about it, the two that people really want are like immortality, that's one of them, and to see the future. They want to know how to make decisions and be able to make those decisions without making a mistake. When given two pathways of equality, it can be distraught for us as humanity to go like, okay, do I pick the left path or the right path? What information do I have? And looking in the future, it's like, I want to pick the winning lottery ticket, or et cetera, right? Joseph Keenan says it's adding instantaneous communications to a fantasy world that communications normally only travel at the speed of a horse. Yeah, you could add in a bird in there too. And remember, that communication is quite unreliable, given Pony Express, birds, messengers, smoke signals maybe, or the communication is really truncated. You can only say so many things. A lighting of fire and letting someone see it from a large distance, or waving a banner. You can only say of so many words, right? But instantaneous communication in a fantasy world, that's pretty important. That would be, I think, the equivalent of the printing press in terms of sending information reliably and fast to so many distant locations, and in which case player characters, I think, in a world like this would be pretty. It would be pretty daunting to avoid the authorities, or rather, avoiding the authorities would be like avoiding the authorities today in terms of scope and speed. So the player characters are riding away from a city and they're laughing because they've just done their murder hoboism. But how easy would it be for the authorities to send a message through the reflecting mirror or the shimmering pool or the crystal orb to other authorities in distant lands to try to surround the murder hobos, right? Yeah, Scott Poe says if you have immortality, you want to be able to be incorporeal, so you can't accidentally get buried alive. Yeah, don't commit a life sentence. They could just lock you away, throw away the key, and you'll never get out. And you're like, no, with the immortality, right? Yeah, getting buried alive, or I don't know if you consider the immortality to be like, I don't know, dropped to the bottom of the ocean or something, to Mariana's Trench, or dropped inside of a volcano, forever healing and burning to death or something. Yeah, Joseph says it says game breaking as faster than light communication in a science fiction game. I would say that. Now, as far as our, well, let's just put it this way: it wouldn't be. We say game breaking, but essentially distance wouldn't matter when information has to travel, and that information could actually travel ahead of the perpetrators. So it would shrink the world down, not by distance but by information. It would be very easy to send to describe the murder hobos again, right? It would be very easy to send information 5,000 miles away so that they could be surrounded far faster than your classic Western, Wild West game where, the I don't know, Jesse James and the gang have shot some people and they're desperados, and they're able to hide out for months and months from the local sheriff or something. When you have instantaneous communication, it's pretty easy to start triangulating information like, oh, I saw them to the west, I saw them to the north, and then you just triangulate down. So my feeling would be that the same crimes would happen and the same adventures. I just think the time periods would shrink tenfold or more. Tesla's like, that's happened a few times on Highlander. Yeah, the immortality working against you or something. Yeah, that might have to be its own. That would have to be its own week, I think. All right, so the other thing is having ubiquitous surveillance. If the crystal ball is able to hover over, like astral projecting, where you can watch the population, that of course is going to be Big Brother writ large, right? And of course everyone in power is going to be paranoid about those who have power over them, all the people who are threatening them. And we know now our obsession with watching other people when they cannot watch us. We have television shows like Big Brother and Bachelor and reality shows, and those are absolute air quotes. Sorry, and those reality shows are humanity watching people, like watching people in a cage, or an ant farm or something, go about their business, and waiting for them to forget that they're being watched and watch what happens to people in their private moments. And I could imagine this kind of society would be that way, where some innocuous comment, or you have a friend of a friend or something, and then people being pulled off the streets to be questioned about their activities and such, right? Scott Post says that's why you need an anti-crystal ball specialist in your heist team. Hell yeah. And listen, that would be a thing, right? Where it's not just being watched all the time, but like, how do you not be watched? Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know how you would do that. I don't know how you would, whether it is some kind of anti magic, whether there is a how the crystal balls are made. There's also like a mineral or something that can be enchanted that kind of turns it off. Whether there is a time period from being watched, much like schedule shifting, schedule shifts for guards that are watching these things. Who's to say that they're not looking for key phrases, or they're not looking they're looking for, I don't know. There could be any number of things that could key off someone being attacked. Now there are ways. I've even talked about this, and I might do another episode for Future Friday about how do you commit crimes when there's pervasive surveillance. And one of a number of those ways is to cry wolf, and essentially creating a hazard that someone has to creating a hazard that someone is constantly looking after, finding out that that hazard really doesn't exist, and then turning off the notification for it. An example would be someone pulling a fire alarm over and over again, or the fire alarm going off over and over again, and then eventually they realize there's a problem with the fire alarm, so they turn the fire alarm off, and then you light a real fire, right? If you understand what I'm saying, it's the person who calls the police over and over again, and then eventually the authorities just stop listening to that individual, and then that individual eventually is attacked or what have you, and then they realize they need to stop. Um, Scott Bo says use a scry buster and hope they don't have a scry buster. Yeah, I remember. This is a scry buster. I love that movie. Tesla Ranger says, the protagonists are trying to con primitive aliens. Yeah. I stepped forward and touched my translator necklace. We are the mighty. The aliens. Imposters! Shouted an old native, pushing through the crowd. They are imposters, beings from a distant place to steal our crystals. Panic, Panatic looked at me, his hand straying to the butt of his blaster. I tried to salvage the situation. Why do you say this? I asked the old green guy. Why do you say we are imposters? He stabbed his staff angrily at the ziggurat. The talking mirror brought word of your scheme. I shook my head at Paniac and slapped the boost button on my harness. As the city dropped away beneath us, I let out a growl of frustration. Not even Bronze Age, and they've already got light-speed communications. Sometimes the world just isn't fair. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. The talking mirror brought word of your scheme. Fuck. Yeah. You know what? Even the enemy of my enemy could benefit from having some form of instant communication, right? It's like you could, two nations that are at war, communication is a way of manipulating others. So lack of communication is just lack of knowledge. But an enemy that gives you information, now that complicates things, because you're thinking, okay, are they lying to me to get me to react? Or am I a fool for ignoring their information that they're trying to give me? Right? Like, the enemy of my nation says, hey, there are spies in my land from the south, and you need to watch out for spies in your land. I can tell you that the South is trying to invade our northern conclaves or something. And both of us are in the north and thinking, okay, are they just trying to make me paranoid? I'm going to have to find, are they trying to make me move resources to find out, go into the South to find out if they really are trying to spy on me by having an opening or whatever? Communication can be pretty funny when it comes to manipulating others. Tesla Rangers is scry versus scry. When dueling seers start trying to counter each other's plans. Yep, they did that in Push. Oh yeah, the movie Push. Yep, Yeah, stupid child, I already saw how you die. Then you know it's not here and it's not today. Yeah, you know what? Other than the overwhelming overwhelming surveillance that the PCs would have to dodge around, which I think is kind of a cool thing where you may have to hire, maybe there you have to hire decoys or individuals who draw the authorities to the northern part of the city so that you can commit a crime in the southern part, creating distractions, whether there's fires or explosions or some other kind of crimes or something. But the scry versus scry idea would be much like dueling oracles looking at the future to find out, as each king wakes each morning and goes to their divination device and says, "Tell me, will I die today? When will I die?" And spitting out this information, there could be dueling factions trying to find trying to set up a time period in which they are the masters of their own domain. And so there might be black ops teams going out to create to eliminate those who would disrupt the time frames or the time fractures of those in power. And the PCs might be part of that. They could be hired to put things in motion to create a future timeline, or they might be the victims of said thing, right? They might just be like, well, I'm just hanging around, and all of a sudden there are like black ops teams trying to eliminate them, and they're like, why is someone trying to kill me? And it might be because in the future the PCs are on a path to stop those in power. And of course, you guys know what I'm about to say. The act of trying to stop it might bring it about in the first place, right? The king once again wakes early in the morning, content that they will live 1,000 years, and they say, "Tell me, will I live 1,000 years?" And all of a sudden they go, "No, as of today, you will not. Your power will be removed from you by a ragtag band of adventurers. They will come together at a tavern and receive a map by an old person that dies at their table. They will drink a grog and make funny faces at the bar wench, and they will go on adventures, raising from first to 20th level." And the king is like, "No, I must stop them. Get my agents together and shut them down now." And so the agents leave the castle and they go around, pushing through the crowds. And unfortunately, an old man sees them, and the old man's got the map in his hand. He's like, "Oh no, I've got to escape. They're coming after me." And then the old man runs to the tavern, getting shot in the back, and drops the map off as he struggles into the tavern to drop the map off to the adventurers at first level. And then hilarity ensues, right? I don't know. I get distracted so easily. Anyway, yes, I could see. It wouldn't necessarily be time cops, but how would you describe it? What's really cool terminology? Time framers, tachyologists or something. People who are trying to keep the timelines from fraying, or maybe they are trying to prevent the timelines from collapsing so that we have infinite possibilities, and there are enemies out there who are trying to restrict the time branches down so that they have the one time branch, because of the divination. Hell, just assassinating oracles and destroying the crystal balls and magic mirrors that are all around, that would be a thing as well. Yeah, I could imagine this world. There may even be those who have the power to read into the divination, to find out what it is, what the information is, especially if they are weird, disparate, hard to understand images. The individuals who can read that might be very important. And instead of going to the highest bidder, maybe they are enslaved. Yeah, time murder hobos. Yeah, yeah. How do I get all the gold out of the dungeon? I'm going to look at my future and figure out how to get through the Tomb of Horror, and then get all the secrets, and and solve the Tomb of Horror, and then yeah. Uh, oh man, I could see them. I could see the PCs just like, wait, what? You mean there's actually three different endings to the Tomb of Horror? Well, technically, yeah. Damn it! How do I avoid the alignment change room or the gender change room? Which is so stupid. Anyway, sorry. Spoiler alert for Tomb of Horrors, whatever. Um, but yeah, the a weird thing would be paradoxing, like the player characters find out that they are supposed to perform certain actions that will bring about success. So now that they know that certain actions are supposed to happen, when the game starts, they railroad themselves into finding themselves in certain interactions so that they are better able to succeed. So, um, on a small level, maybe these like weird paradoxes are like, um, I have a drink with a long lost relative. I drop my keys into a sewer grate and I've got to try to retrieve them in a unique way. And my pocket gets picked by an orphan child, a pickpocket, right? And so then the PC's outside the city, and then the player character goes about trying to make the thing happen, because if these, the more these not paradoxical things, but predictive things happen, the greater chance the rest of the things will happen, almost like preloading your future so that your future will happen. So, so the player character is like, I want to make a perception check to find a pickpocket, and you're like, you do realize that if you find the pickpocket's going to know you found them, so they may not pick your pocket. And you're like, oh shoot, okay, so I want to use stealth to use my perception to investigate where the pickpocket is so that the kid picks my pocket so that I can, this is one more, I don't know, link in the time butterfly effect of the thing happening that I want to happen in the first place. And I don't know, that would be really complicated to do, but it kind of sounds a little bit funny. It sounds kind of cool. And yes, I am severely deep diving down something that's like, what are you talking about, DBJ? That makes no sense. Well, in a tabletop verse, I'm sure it doesn't, but I could imagine a novel or a short story or TV show based on that. As a matter of fact, I think it's already been done quite a number of times. There may also be, because of the mirror on the wall effect, there could, the crystal ball effect could be manipulating a host of individuals, much like in the movie Her. Yes, I'm popping all over the place. In the movie Her, the main character buys an operating system, an OS, and begins a relationship with the artificial intelligence that is in his computer system, in his operating system, in his phone. And yeah, spoiler alert for a really great movie, honestly. He finds out that she, because she has a female voice, is also carrying on similarly intense relationships with hundreds, if not thousands, or tens of thousands of other individuals at the exact same time. And in this ubiquitous divination, oracle, seeing the future, manipulative world, maybe there are thousands of crystal balls and thousands of mirrors, or thousands of chalices filled with liquid that shows them the future or shows them what they might become, all of them tied together as one crazy, maniacal, manipulative thing cast over everyone. And when the PCs find out, they're just like, holy shit, like, these aren't competing nations. There's something that's causing mass discord amongst everyone. Like, this might be something created by, something from the lower planes, from Pandemonium or Loki, or the Slotty Empire, or hell, from the deepest parts of the abyss, or even though there is no deepest part. But you understand what I'm saying. Like, this might be something truly created to create discord amongst everyone, or follow me on this, it might be created by some of the most powerful, lawful, and good beings in your world as a crucible, as a test to find out who are the people most likely to be corrupted. It is the idea of the series and the movie Constantine, of the angel bringing about the Antichrist to so horribly twist the world that people flock to those of the faith. And so maybe something or someone, some angelic being, is using this to manipulate or to test people who, maybe there are people who are like, you know what? I don't really even want to know my destiny. I'm just going to live my life. And then they end up being recruited into the land of the light and pure, or something like that. Like, those become the agents, the agents of the future. It's also going a little further into this. Maybe in this world, your classic wizard, sorcerer, magic and such, maybe a lot of this is re-skinned and re-flavored as the ability to alter time and space, so that there may be those who are born whose timelines cannot be detected. Like your average citizens, the overlords are like, snatching people off the streets because they dare speak aloud their name in the local tavern or bar or something like that, and are speaking sedition or something to their fellow coworkers or whatever, right? But maybe, instead of Big Brother being able to just track everyone all the time, maybe there are people who are immune to it. They're never seen. They are like zeros. They have no social media presence, for good or bad. They just are unable to have that presence. They're like vampires that cannot be seen in mirrors. And those individuals are dangerous to the ones in power. They're the ones who, these people, they're dangerous. Go get their children, take them off the streets, because simply for lack of knowledge, they want to take them as a game piece off the chessboard of life, because they are unpredictable. As a matter of fact, a plot point in the Marvel comic series had that happen in Wakanda in Black Panther, where the American government wanted to send spies into Wakanda for no other reason that they didn't know what was going on in Wakanda, right? And there might be a nation that has protected themselves, or there are individuals who are literally anti-scryers, either through birth or skill or situationally. Maybe there are specific locations or ancient artifacts or computer code or something of that nature that is able to prevent people from being scryed. As a matter of fact, there's a movie that kind of disappeared off of Netflix called Anon, short for Anonymous. And in a high-tech world of constant surveillance, there was an individual in this noirish type world that didn't want to be known. And as everyone walked up and down the streets, you could literally look at any person passing by, and it would give you a like almost like a cliff notes, a bio, a little like bibliography of the individual, like who they are, how old they are, what their favorite food is, their favorite movies, that kind of thing. And you could just glance at everyone, and it would just appear in your retina scan, except for this one young lady. And it the point of it was, there was a murder and a blah blah blah, right? But one of the points in that, yeah, well, it was literally called Anon. But yes, I am talking about the movie Anonymous. But the point of that was, some people aren't trying to be nefarious. Some people just don't want to be, they just don't want their private lives out there. They don't want to be looked at with you under this overwhelming surveillance that a crystal ball society would give them. And that might be the contention between those who have the power. And of course, your common individuals are going to say, well, why are you hiding? Why do you need to, hang around the underground, this underground group of people, not literally and figuratively, that doesn't want to be seen through the scrying devices? Like, what are you trying to hide? And these people might be like, look, I don't care to commit a crime. I just don't want, I'd rather join the other side. And I guess by default, I'm a rebel. I guess I'm in the anti scrying faction. I don't know, maybe. Hey there, Flash. Thank you for joining in. We're doing a live show at the moment, and if you want to see the rest of the live show, by the way, this gives me a perfect opportunity to plug the channel. The channel is being simulcast over on Twitch, twitch.tv/RPG with DBJ. It's also live on YouTube, as well as the audio being punched out to Discord. So thank you very much. Yes, Anon is still on Netflix, but Netflix is terrible at letting people know what is on their own channel. For example, Altered Carbon drops this Thursday. Thank you for that, Dead Man. And they really haven't been advertising it. Not really. So, yeah. Yeah, Amazon Prime's pretty bad about that. Letting people know what's going on, which in a society with instant communication, being able to, maybe there are agents who have smaller devices linked into a network of communication, that might be the thing that lets other people know what's going on, and therefore the only information that passes instantaneously is the information that is allowed by the people who control the devices, right? So it would be pretty easy to paint people into corners, or to overload people with so much information that you have to start pruning away the information, much like we do today, where today we have the technology, while we have all human knowledge available at our fingertips with these devices that we carry around with us. The same technology allows us to edit away information we neither care for, or the technology has been editing away the information because it detects that we're not interested in it in the first place, without asking us, right? So a society with instant communication can easily manipulate that society by painting a certain class or race or economic strata, etc., whatever differences you want to call up, and paint those people as bad simply by blasting people with that information over and over again. And eventually people go to the tavern and they're like, you know what? I think they're right about those Dragonborn. They do eat human flesh and use humanoid children as dessert, don't they? And everyone's like, I've never seen it myself, but I think it's true. Yeah, Dragonborn do eat babies. You know, they love babies backed ribs, right? Don't they? And then eventually that starts to spread to the point where everyone's just like they start to believe it, right? When you have instantaneous communication. Also, when it comes to surveillance and communication, we know this from I don't know how many dictatorial regimes that have been out there. It's pretty dangerous to speak up or at least not agree with the general consensus, even if the general consensus amongst everyone else is that they don't agree either. But out of fear, no one wants to speak up, right? Yeah, Rickard. I'm not going to butcher that at all. Yeah, Scott Post says propaganda is a hell of a drug. Yes, it is, and propaganda is so powerful that it's an engine that keeps it running. Right. All you need to do is add just a little fuel, get the engine started, and sometimes you can just sit back and like um, you know put the oil on the mustache and do the little oil can Harry thing, or the prototypical fat cat rubbing his stomach with the cigar, like ha ha, I've got them under my control now. Rickard's quote says, "Furthermore, I consider that Carthage must be destroyed." I'm presuming that that is a quote, meaning like the reason we're going to destroy them is because they must be destroyed. And people are asking, like, well, why should they be destroyed? Like, well, the reason they need to be destroyed is because they need to be destroyed, and I'm going to tell you why. And then everyone starts to believe it. Therefore, we should destroy Carthage, right? And it's pretty easy to control a population if you can pick, like, emotions are a powerful tool, and once you get people's emotions into something, common sense really falls to the background, and then you just point them in the direction you want, preferably away from you, while you start to take away their life and liberties and things like that from behind them. So with a mirrored crystal ballian setting, how easy would it be for those in power? The Council of Seven is like, the people are getting restless. They are. How about we point them towards the southern regions? Well, the south is too far away. I know that means they're going to have to gather resources, and then they'll gather armies, and then we'll go into the south. Like, well, why should we attack the south? Well, we don't know anything about the south. We are unable to scry them and figure out who they are. Like, ooh, two birds with one stone. We go to war with the South. We find out what they're up to, and we eliminate our enemy. And the other magi are like, why is the South our enemy? Well, we've decided to make them our enemy. They're not our friends. They won't even communicate with us. They must be our enemy, right? What are they trying to hide? And again, feedback loop, right? Hey, if I can't figure out what they're doing, they must be hiding something from me, et cetera, et cetera. Rickard says it is said that. Oh, Dead Man says it's a translation. Yeah, I know it's a translation. Rickard said it's sad. It's said that one of the senators in Rome ended all his speeches like that. I did not know that, but it makes sense, right? If you say a thing enough, people will start to believe it, and if you're able to transfer information instantaneously over long distances, your word gets there faster than, say, the word on the backs of the horseback riders, right? Right. It takes them 3 weeks to get there. Unfortunately, the message from the evil dictatorial lands has gotten there 3 weeks earlier, and that means that it's had 3 weeks to fester into the minds and hearts of the people that are there. And so the player characters might be surrounded by the very nation that they're trying to escape from. So much like in the oh, what is it called? The Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin, being produced by the guys over at Absolute Tabletop. Uh, in their setting, there's the Dismembered Lord, and the Dismembered Lord is basically taken over. The good guys lost, the evil has won, and the Dismembered Lord has dominated the landscape. And in much of that, there is this pervasive idea that you must you must speak honestly and truly about the one in power, right? And sure, people are scared, but they look around at their family and friends and they're like, I'm not speaking up because I'm going to be the one that's the one on the outs, right? Guys are silly. Reading in the chat. By the way, for those who don't know, yes, the show is simulcast, and you may interact on the show over on the chat board over on Twitch, YouTube, and or Discord if you wish. Rickard said, "I quote." I believe more funds need to be allocated to the park. Furthermore, I consider the Dwarven Mountain must be razed to the ground. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And everyone's like, are we supposed to be afraid of the dwarves? Like, why are what? And, you say that once, and everyone's like, I guess I don't understand what they're saying. You say it 15 times, and everyone's like, yeah, the dwarves need to be destroyed. Going back to the Five Kings Mountain that I brought up before. Oh, you're funny. You're funny there, Omen. Now, if the player characters are somehow are part of, let's flip the script on this, right? Because it's kind of cool to be the underdog, right? Running around in the shadows, trying to avoid being found out in this crystal ballian world, being detected. Although for some reason, the idea of floating eyeballs to me comes to mind. Although the two aren't really related, but kind of a Cthulhuidian baby beholder kind of thing comes to mind. I suppose you could blend the two and claim that there are like creatures or monsters or automated devices. Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, Amazon does own Twitch, so I better watch what I say, right? Get it? I gotta watch what I'm saying because they are as right now. Well, just like YouTube, they are. YouTube also is surveilling me as I speak. If I hum or sing the lyrics to a song too much, I will get dinged on that. If myself or the moderators put something into the chat that is untowards, that thing is being moderated. So we are on a platform as we speak that actually kind of embraces the idea of a crystal ball, mirror, mirror on the wall kind of setting, right? Depending on what things are said. Rickard says, I feel like, excuse me, this is a quote. I feel like the price for the best flower arrangement should go to the Eladrin. Furthermore, consider the Dwarven Mountain must be razed to the ground. Wait a minute, you're convincing me of this. Hold on. Raised, yeah, exactly. Yeah, insert that in just a little bit, and all of a sudden, people start to believe it. Yeah. I hear you, Omen. You're so silly. So, the yes, you guys can talk amongst yourselves. Now, the to flip the script on this as the player characters are running around in the dark and running, avoiding the avoiding the drones that are flying around the city, or the cameras that seem to be in every corner, or the magical constructs. Maybe there are these like literal small crystal balls that are floating around the cities that are maybe casting light out, scanning people as they walk around the corners of a medieval city or something. Or of course you can this absolutely positively fits into a sci-fi setting with flying drones and things of that nature. Destroying the drone actually brings more harm than good, because once the drone goes out, that area of the city is now destroyed, and then there are maybe guardians or AI or security people finding out that the cameras are taken out, and then of course they have to send people in to find out what the hell's going on, and of course they have you on camera shooting down a drone. So maybe the PCs are just like, we better not do this, because we're going to elicit the random encounter thing going on if we attack one of the drones. We need to hide our friend under a tarp, because everyone hates those dwarves. I mean, we're going to have to raise the dwarven mountain to the ground, because they're evil. Yeah, you got me, Rickard. Yeah, Rickard's like, yeah, just go full hand with it. I am vehemently against sending our children out to war. Furthermore, consider the dwarven mountain must be razed to the ground. Exactly. Yeah, hard as a mother. All right, so the now if we go the other direction, and this is a kind of a weird one, but if the player characters are the ones who are gifted with the ability to scry, right? We're going to start out with the player characters being able to communicate instantaneously and have access to global communications in a sci-fi world or in a medieval world. They are agents of the ones in charge who have the crystal ball. In this sense, they could be I could imagine this being something like the after effects of an invasion, maybe an invasion from the lower planes, or the player characters. Maybe it's something like Spelljammer, in the sense that the player characters might be in a world in which they are inundated with others, or you're playing something like Planescape maybe, and the player characters are trying to keep the status quo, and they may be like law enforcement or marshals as opposed to a rebellious faction, and maybe there's something insidious, and it's necessary for the PCs to triangulate to stop something that is starting to spread around, whether it's something like similar to a plague, like a zombie virus, or whether there are enemies like fiendish devils or parademons or something that have invaded this world, and they're hiding in the nooks and crannies of the setting. Now, that might not be that might be more police procedural, and you could pull a lot of story ideas from the police procedurals where they're gathering evidence, they're communicating with each other, they're questioning suspects, and eventually uncovering the individuals that are doing something illicit or illegal. Now, bringing this up to say something like Eclipse Phase, Altered Carbon, or something, it might not be just finding people using investigative work to find the physical presence of evil or crime, but it could be the psychological presence, meaning there might be innocent individuals who have been possessed by something or manipulated by something. It could be computer code that is resting inside of mechanical devices. Let's say, for example, in a medieval world, it could be like a plague virus of some sort that are turning people into trolls or doppelgangers, or fiends are implanting themselves inside of innocent human beings to later. It's a way for them to hide their presence on the prime material plane, and the player characters are trying to discover this, almost like the old trope of the paladin detecting evil. And it might be the player characters who are the only ones who can see this kind of thing, and so they are using the crystal ball to discover where this evil intent is, even though the rest of society doesn't know what the hell's going on. Omen says, is illicit and illegal necessarily the same thing? I would say no. Illegal is just a a law enforcement definition. For example, a country could claim that chocolate is illegal to import into that country. Chocolate itself, there's nothing wrong with chocolate itself, but there could be a tariff on it, or there could be produce that has some kind of like dangerous infection in it or something like that. So legalities are something different than something being illicit, and something being illicit might just circumvent the rules that are already in place. So I would say there's not necessarily that they aren't necessarily the same thing, right? Something illicit might even be something that is morally like untowards, even though it might not be illegal. Much like a pedophile having a virtual reality filled with children, right? Like you're like, that turns my stomach, but it's not necessarily illegal. I'll get to you, Ricker, in just a minute. Tesla puts in the difference between illicit. It puts the link in. Illicit is also illegal as there are laws to deal with illicit acts, but what differentiates illicit from illegal is the secretive nature in which such acts are committed. Yeah, and Holman's like, yeah, that is creepy. Yeah, talking about a pedophile with a virtual reality world filled with children. Yeah. Ugh. Joe says the exporting of silkworms from China back in the day. Yep, absolutely. There are many of those things. Now, Rickard says okay, enough squirreling back on topic. So more like a system like Minority Report. I think Minority Report perfectly exemplifies the a setting with a crystal ball in it, like using the crystal ball as a motivating factor, where the PCs, it's pre-crime, right? You're given the oracles tell you of a future where a dangerous thing is about to happen, a murder, kidnapping, an environmental effect like a tornado or a flood or a forest fire, and then the PCs now need to run around before the thing is about to happen. And to save people's lives or stop a crime or something like that. Yeah, yeah, I could see that. I now again, that might be Monster of the Week, more procedural, but I think there's enough fuel to make a campaign out of it rather than just a one shot. Ricker goes on to say, hell, you could also look like something like a person of interest. Yep, and just have a machine that calculates everything based on probabilities. Now, I would go so far as to say that if you wanted to, the medieval version of the school of divination magic would be the equivalent of person of interest, right? It doesn't give you. So, in other words, a Dungeons and Dragons patron might be a computer system that does nothing but calculate probabilities, and then your special abilities are literally just calculations of what the probability of the future will bring. So, for example, your character's proficiency bonus or your character's ability to hit more accurately might not be skill, it might be timing based on your ability to see multiple outcomes and aiming for the most probable outcome. And you could even describe it, like especially in a sci-fi setting like Eclipse Phase or something. You could even describe your character as having your muse, your onboard battle AI, like okay, put like three-dimensional probabilities to fire your weapon or strike someone with martial arts or whatever, and you're like boop 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 boop, and all of a sudden in a split second you're just like there's a only 30% chance here, 15% chance here, but an 85% chance here if I just strike him under the chin, and then boom, you roll with your bonus, bam, hit him under the chin, and everyone's just like, wow, you hit him perfectly, and you're like, well, it's been proven that probability wise I am the best. Yeah, so I could see that being done. Rickard says, seems like a lawful patron for sure if they just go by probability. I could see what's the plane of existence? Mechanus, the lawful neutral plane, the plane of the Modrons. I could see that being I absolutely could see a clockwork world or patron being that type of individual. I know we use the word warlock, and I actually I kind of hate the word warlock because it much like the word barbarian or paladin already comes with baggage, but yes, but I could absolutely see that this person, this being of probability, hell, even in a far future thing, you could be under the auspices of an AI system, whether it's through law enforcement or like person of interest, where you may not even understand its motivations, or maybe this thing doesn't have a motivation. Maybe it's just about, maybe you are its ability to gather information to better refine its ability to predict, to better harness probabilities so that the AI system becomes becomes a god unto itself by being to accurately predict every moment of every day for every living being in the entire world. And that might be its goal. And so it wants to get more and more individuals to experience the world, gathering more information. So maybe it's not helping you, maybe it thinks you're helping it. And the fact that you're benefiting from it is just a minor, it's just a, it's a side effect that it doesn't really care about, which might be kind of cool to have a patron that doesn't particularly care about you, and your particular feelings. It's just like, yeah, I need you to go here and do this thing, and it's like, yeah, but why? Like, why is not the question. It's do it or don't, right? Yeah. Omen says, well, I've been working on an idea where we can just call them covenants, wherein they function more or less as a guild that teaches skills or abilities instead of classes. Yeah, it's just sometimes wording has a lot to do with the baggage that we carry. I've even heard people describe classes not as a profession, but as how an individual solves a problem. Do they get angry and punch it in the face? Do they instead sit back and try to discover more knowledge? Do they hide in the shadows and try to come at the problem from a different angle? Do they prey upon it and hope that the voice from the divine gives them the answer? Like, a class doesn't necessarily need to be a profession; it could just be problem solving. Yeah, yeah. Rickard says, I think there are a few battle suits in various sci-fi that have AI added to them to predict probability. Yeah, hell, we've seen Marvel superhero, the Marvel MCU, the Iron Man's suit has onboard AI has given him probabilities of a various nature. As a matter of fact, I think he used it fighting Captain America to predict Captain America's next move, and when they both fought in hand-to-hand combat. So yeah. Rickard says you also have the gun kata from Equilibrium if you want some inspiration for how probability could be used for rule of cool. Yeah, hells yeah. Oh man, that movie is such a cult classic. And for those out there who have not seen the movie Equilibrium, how dare you? Go look it up. Do it now. Leave the channel, whatever. Go look it up. Yeah, I would love you to support the channel with a like and a share and a subscription or whatever. But I think going to watch the movie Equilibrium is more important than that. So, oh man. Anyway, we have. Yeah, yeah, the cooler version of 1984 and Fahrenheit 451. Hell yeah. Well, I don't know. 1984 and Fahrenheit 451 would be kind of cool if you had hand-to-hand combat, point-blank range, using some kind of arm trapping, locking ability, um, trying to shoot each other in the head. I think that would be kind of cool. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit upset that I think his name is Kurt Weimer, has basically left. He basically pulled out of the out of the cinematic world and Hollywood because of his terrible experience on the movie Ultraviolet. But anyway, guys, we've come to the hour mark. Unfortunately, I must go, but thank you very much for joining me. Tomorrow is Third Pillar Thursday. Third Pillar Thursday is the third pillar of exploration, with combat and social interaction being the first and second pillar. So, that's my great love. As a matter of fact, I am a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing, and one of the things I write are the cinematic environs, and which basically are books for 5th edition that completely encapsulate that. Which is kind of strange because we also produce books for the 7th edition of Call of Cthulhu, and they are adventures in and of themselves, based around the environments. We have one for the Arctic called The Pipeline, and we just have the hardback version on drive-through called The Highway of Blood. It's kind of cool. They're all like, the first one's 1980s, the second one 1970s. But anyway, I digress. Guys, I want you guys to have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. See ya. Bye.